The anime begins with a teenage boy named Hajime Nagumo awakening in a cave within the Great Orcus Labyrinth, a dangerous world filled with monsters. He contemplates his dire situation and the possibility of death. While attempting to find an exit, he witnesses a bunny monster effortlessly defeating two other monsters with its powerful attacks. However, their encounter is interrupted when a larger predator arrives and kills the bunny, devouring it. Hayne tries to escape but is attacked by the predator, resulting in him losing his arm. He manages to survive by utilizing his special ability called transmute, which allows him to reshape objects. He discovers a sacred stone containing holy water, which he uses to heal his injuries and remove curses. Hayne then recalls the skills he learned from the royal library of his high school and realizes that he is far weaker compared to his classmates in terms of combat ability. As Hayne delves deeper into the labyrinth, he experiences flashbacks revealing how he ended up in this predicament. Nagumo and his classmates initially enter the Great Orcus Labyrinth together. A classmate named Inagawa saves Hazime when he struggles against a monster, emphasizing the need for Hayame to work harder during their exploration. They come across a glance crystal, which teleports them to a trap filled with monsters. In the face of danger, the group relies on a divine protection spell for defense, but it eventually fails. Hajime uses his transmutability to fend off the monsters while his classmates make their way across a bridge. However, Hajime is struck by a direct attack from one of his teammates, causing him to fall off the bridge, which collapses due to the monster's onslaught on the brink of death, and he feels betrayed by his classmates. Hayame questions why he chose to train in the Great Orcus Labyrinth. Determined to survive, he does exactly what your fat self would do and resorts to eating monsters for sustenance. He manages to trap two wolf monsters as he consumes their flesh. A peculiar sensation comes from the wolf's blood, but he successfully survives. Examining his status plate, he discovers that his level has increased, and he gains additional skills related to lightning and wolf attributes. Hayame creates a revolver-like weapon named Donner. Using his transmutation skills along with blasting bullets crafted from different stones with his newly acquired abilities, he defeats a bunny monster, further enhancing his skills. Eventually, he faces off against the larger predator once again and emerges victorious in a rematch. Nagumo becomes determined to eliminate various monsters in his path, while his teammates explain the entire situation to the king of the kingdom. They describe how they unintentionally entered a trap on the TH stage of the Great Orcus Labyrinth, which teleported them to the unprecedented TH stage where they encountered the fearsome behemoth. The king reminds them that their presence in this world was part of an agreement, while Mego's teammate named Shizuku experiences flashbacks as Pope Iser, the king's servant, explains the reason behind their summoning as heroes. The demons in this world have gained control over monsters, and humanity is on the verge of destruction. The heroes were summoned by the prayers of the people of Taurus to combat the demons and their monster allies with their incredible powers. Shizuku remembers how her girlfriend Kori agreed to fight demons alongside her. While reminiscing, Shizuka starts suspecting Yama, another teammate. As she notices his constant conflict with Nagumo, she speculates that Yama might be acting out of jealousy, but she pushes aside the thought for the time being. Meanwhile, Kiori wakes up from her unconscious state, having lost sight of Nagumo. As Nagumo continues his exploration, he encounters one-eyed monsters behind a door. Engaging in a battle, he manages to defeat them using Donner's powerful shots. He finds Mona stones within their bodies, which he collects to unlock the door behind the door. He discovers a girl who has been sealed within a stone. The girl reveals that she belongs to a long line of vampires, and was sealed away by her uncle and the ministers due to her immortality and rapid healing powers, utilizing his abilities. Nagumo successfully breaks the stone, freeing the girl. He gives her the name Yu while escaping Yui, and Nagumo comes face to face with a scorpion monster. The monster attacks Nagumo, severely injuring him despite his injuries. Nagumo unleashes multiple attacks in an attempt to defeat the monster, but his efforts prove futile. It is then that Yui utilizes her Azure Blaze ability to launch a powerful attack on the monster, taking advantage of the distraction. Nagumo successfully shoots the monster's head, with Donner ultimately killing it. After the battle, Yui explains her unique nature of regeneration instead of aging. She also reveals that all the labyrinths are created by mavericks, with each maverick residing at the center of a labyrinth. Finding the maverick could potentially lead them to the surface motivated by this knowledge. Nagumo crafts another rifle named Sean, and the duo continues their journey in search of the labyrinth center. As they progress, Nagumo shares the story of how they were summoned by the god to fight against the demons. He reflects on his own uselessness among his classmates and how they betrayed him. Now he no longer cares about them and focuses solely on improving himself. Nagumo decides to bring Yui along with him on his quest to return home. During their travels, they encounter a group of dinosaurs with flowers on their heads, which they manage to evade. Eventually, they find themselves in a cave surrounded by green crystals. Suddenly, a flower grows on Yui's head, causing her to launch multiple attacks on Nagumo. A monster with controlling powers appears, but Nagumo skillfully defeats it with his shots. Later, Yui reveals that she drinks blood instead of consuming regular food. Nagumo and Yui continue their journey, successfully reaching the floor of the labyrinth as they reach the bottom of the abyss. Nagumo and Yui confront the final boss, a six-faced dragon monster. The dragons launch their attacks, but Nagumo and Yui skillfully defend themselves in a powerful counterattack. Nagumo fires multiple shots with his donor, while Yui utilizes glacial sleets to inflict heavy injuries on the dragons. However, the dragons quickly heal themselves with the assistance of a healing dragon. Nagumo and Yui decide to target the healing dragon, first launching a barrage of attacks. However, the defending dragon takes all the damage onto itself, acting as a perfect balance between attacker, defender, and healer. Suddenly, a dragon manipulates Yui's mind, attempting to harm her. Nagumo comes to her rescue, saving her from the illusion. Yui, feeling abandoned once again, is comforted when Nagumo wakes her up with a kiss and reassures her that they are going home together. Nagumo grabs his Shogun rifle and delivers a powerful shot, eliminating 3 of the dragon's faces. Yui unleashes her Heavenly Blaze ability, combining their efforts to defeat all of the dragons. However, another dragon monster appears and launches a fierce attack on Yui. Nagumo defends her with his crafted rifle, but in the process, he sustains heavy injuries and collapses. The dragon continues its assault, but Yui, determined to save Nagumo, carries him on her back while evading the attacks. Yui tries to awaken Nagumo using holy water and attacks the dragon with his revolver, but her attempts fail. Seeing Yui in tears, Nagumo suddenly awakens with renewed strength and protects her from a dragon's attack. Nagumo sets up a trap by creating holes with his shots and filling them. With grenades, the trap causes rocks to fall on the dragon, momentarily incapacitating it. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Nagumo combines his transmutation ability with Yui's Aether Blazes, resulting in the defeat of the dragon. Meanwhile, Nagumo's classmates continue their battle against monsters elsewhere. Kori, still mourning Nagumo's loss, holds on to a deep sense of grief and kindness for him. The next morning, Nagumo wakes up to find himself naked in a house, accompanied by Yui. He asks her what happened the previous night, and Yui explains that she had opened the door and taken him out with the help of holy water. She managed to heal his injuries. They find clothes in the house and prepare to explore the surrounding area. While searching the rooms, they come across one with a significant sign on the floor, accompanied by a skeletal corpse sitting on a chair. Witnesses the soul of a man named Oscar Orcus emerging from the skeleton. Oscar reveals that he is the creator of the labyrinth and commends Nagumo for surviving the trials. Reaching this point, he informs Nagumo that the message he is delivering is pre-recorded, while Kori Shizuku and the rest of their teammates are engaged in a rematch against the behemoth monster on the floor fighting on the same bridge. They unleash multiple attacks with various powers, eventually defeating the monster with a final limit break blow on the other side. Oscar Orcus bestows his power upon Nagumo and advises him not to use it for evil purposes. Nagumo experiences an ultimate sensation and realizes that the gods and mavericks were not evil but liberators. They utilize the skeleton corpse as fertilizer for fields and use the Orcus ring to unlock other rooms together. They learn different skills in Nagumo crafts, including various weapons. Nagumo also consumes monster meat to further enhance his abilities, and after falling in love with Yui, they undergo intense training for 2 months and decide to confront the ministers in the kingdoms of the world together, protecting each other. Nagumo and Yui successfully teleport to another world where they are greeted by a rabbit girl eagerly awaiting their arrival. She pleads with them to save her family, explaining that if she lets them go, her future race will be destroyed. She possesses the unique ability of future sight, which is why she knew they would come to help her, though Nagumo initially suggests they continue on their way. Yu insists on taking her along as their guide. Together, they embark on a journey to rescue the rabbit girl's family, riding on a bike summoned by Nagumo. Along the way, they encounter and defeat numerous dragons. The rabbit girl continues to explain the dire situation faced by the beast men, who are unable to protect themselves from monsters. However, she possesses a special magic called future sight. Nagumo and Yuri share their own journey and impress the entire Beastmen community with his exceptional skills. They decide to train the Beastmen to fight against the monsters and protect themselves. Eventually, they come across a magnificent tree that has stood for ages without rotting. Meanwhile, my ex couldn't even stand a week and was already rotting. The people explain its significance to Nagumo, who notices a sign resembling Oscar's. He realizes that this tree may be the entrance to another labyrinth, placing the Orcus ring in one of the holes. Nagumo discovers that by clearing the other 4 labyrinths, the door will open, granting them access to the ancient magic of regeneration. Nagumo informs the people about the plan and urges them to train themselves while he continues his journey. He takes the rabbit girl along with Ui with him as they proceed forward, determined to conquer the remaining labyrinths and unlock the ancient magic after successfully entering the labyrinth in Ryzen. Gorge Nagumo and Ui encounter a door that welcomes them in a creepy yet amusing manner while exploring. Nagumo inadvertently triggers a trap of big rock balls and blades, but they manage to defend themselves and continue onwards with the help of the bunny girl's hammer. They eventually arrive at the place they left before, undeterred. They press forward and find themselves in a hall filled with big armor. They easily defeat them and proceed by jumping on a rock that transports them to Melee Ryzen. The boss of the labyrinth, Nagumo, explains their purpose of seeking the ancient magic and Ryzen questions their ultimate goal and why they desire this magic. Nagumo shares his aspiration of returning home, and Ryzen initially refuses to disclose the information. In response, Nagumo launches missile attacks, initiating a battle. After multiple exchanges of attacks and counters, Ryzen employs his ability to manipulate rocks, but Nagumo, with Ui, and she manage to defend themselves by jumping from one rock to another. Ui unleashes her force rupture ability, and Nagumo wraps Ryzen with ropes. Finally, she, the bunny girl, deals a powerful blow to Ryzen's crystal with her hammer, resulting in his defeat. Nagumo and I commend she for her contribution. Before parting ways, Ryzen offers Nagumo a speech wishing him luck and achieving his end goal. While proceeding further, they come to know who Ryzen actually was. He appreciates his own good luck speech, while she becomes angry and beats him. Ryzen reveals that his magic is gravitic in nature and advises them to make good use of it. He gives them a ring made of rare materials before escorting them out through a river tunnel. Upon reaching the surface, they head to a hotel and book a room where Ui and she engage in a playful argument about who gets to sleep with Hyam. Later, Nagumo, Ui, and she encounter Elward Chan, the head of the city. He asks them to do him a favor and rescue a person named Wuda, who is lost in the forest due to a group of monsters. Nagumo initially refuses, as he has his own goals to accomplish. However, he offers 2 conditions to Chang: to provide them with status plates and to comply with his requests in the future. Chang agrees to the conditions, and they proceed towards the farming area. While stopping at a restaurant to eat rice, Nagumo unexpectedly finds his teacher, Sensei, along with other classmates. "I don't know her name, so we're just going to call her this." Sensei is overjoyed to see him alive, but Nagumo starts ignoring her, causing her to continue talking in vain. Meanwhile, she and Yui introduce themselves to Sensei. However, Sensei's attempts to engage Nagumo in conversation receive only rude responses. In the midst of this, a Templar Knight arrives and admonishes Nagumo for his behavior, insulting Shay by referring to her as a filthy beastman and suggesting she should cut her ears to look more human. She feels embarrassed, and Ui retaliates by calling the knight a small man. The situation escalates as the knight attempts to draw his sword, prompting Nagumo to fire a shot at the knight's arm, warning him to mind his manners. Yuki, one of Nagumo's colleagues, has flashbacks of Nagumo saving her life without receiving any thanks. Nagumo walks away from the scene, expressing his disinterest in the others and warning them not to get in his way, as he won't hesitate to kill if necessary. Sensei persistently calls out to him, but he continues to distance himself. Later that night, Nagumo speaks with Sensei alone in her room, explaining what happened to him. He reveals that after the ancient age of God, the world was engulfed in a war between humans, demons, and beast men. Heroes emerged to stop the war, known as liberators, but they were eventually labeled as mavericks and hunted down by their own god. To survive, they built labyrinths and created trials and monsters. Nagumo confesses that he doesn't care about this conflict. He simply wants to go home. Sensei informs him that Shirasaki, their classmate, never gave up on him. Nagumo urges Sensei to warn Shirasaki about her friends and reveals that his fall was not an accident, but a deliberate act targeting him later. As Nagumo, Yui, and she make their way towards the forest. Sensei and their classmates join them, and they venture forth together later as they continue their search. Nagumo deploys human-located automaton orns to scout the nearby areas for any signs of Kuta. The orns discover broken shields, swords, and bags, as well as tracks left by a four-legged creature. They follow the tracks up the mountains and eventually reach a water flow. Nagumo senses someone's presence, and Yui uses her fishing ability to create a path behind the water flow. They find Wuda, who explains how a black dragon attacked him and his teammates, resulting in their deaths. Kuta feels guilt-ridden, but Nagumo reassures him that there may be a reason he survived. On their way back, they encounter the black dragon once again. The dragon launches a powerful attack, but Nagumo successfully defends himself, and the others using a metal shield. Yukaki comes to Nagumo's aid behind the shield, and Yui utilizes her freezing ability while she attacks with her hammer. However, the dragon quickly recovers and strikes 11 with its tail. Nagumo retaliates by firing multiple shots, weakening the dragon. The dragon then directly targets Weta, but Yui defends him with her freezing ability. Nagumo instructs the rest of the team to stay out of the way, acknowledging that he can't protect everyone. Yui urges everyone to follow her lead. The dragon unleashes another powerful attack on Nagumo, prompting him to take out his rifle and shoot at the dragon. Nagumo tries to capture the dragon using ropes, but it proves to be too powerful, so he orders her to continue her hammer attacks as the dragon falls. Nagumo places a rod in a vulnerable spot on its body, causing the dragon to scream in a female voice. Nagumo insists that the dragon tell the truth, and the dragon reveals that she was manipulated and ordered to kill the young man and his companions. She explains that she flew from a hidden village to investigate travelers from another world. While resting on the mountains, a man dressed in dark robes manipulated her. The dragon further reveals that the man is amassing an army of monsters. Nagumo dismisses the dragon's claims and contemplates killing her for the chaos she caused. However, Yui intervenes, stating that the dragon is not their enemy. The dragon pleads for the rod to be removed as its presence is causing her pain and could lead to her death. Nagumo removes the rod, and the dragon transforms into a beautiful girl named Tyok. Claris, a member of the dragon-born clan Tio, explains that the army of monsters being gathered by the dark-robed man intends to attack the town. Nagumo receives a signal indicating that monsters are marching towards the town and are days away. Sensei suggests warning the townspeople and calling for help, but Nagumo refuses, stating that his primary concern is the safety of Kuta. The next morning, Sensei sits at a table with Nagumo and the other teammates, attempting to convince Nagumo to save the people from the approaching army. Nagumo initially resists, but he eventually agrees, respecting his teacher's command. They begin preparations together, evacuating the townspeople and building defensive walls. Nagumo assures Sensei that he will be fine, and she urges him to come back safely as he readies his rifle. Shirasaki Sano approaches Nagumo to express her gratitude for rescuing her in the labyrinth. Nagumo tells her not to die, acknowledging her bravery. Soon the army of monsters arrives, and Nagumo gives his final touches to a speech he will deliver to the defending town's people. He mentions Ao Sensei, the goddess of agriculture, ensuring the people of victory. With a display of confidence, Nagumo shoots down a dragon, signaling the beginning of the battle. Tyok, Claris, she, and Yui unleash multiple attacks, decimating a significant portion of the enemy forces. Meanwhile, Nagumo rides his bike, with she launching attacks with his hammer and grenades, pushing the remaining army back. Finally, Nagumo and she manage to capture the man in the black robe, who is controlling the army. They bring him to Sensei, only to discover that he is one of Sensei's students named Shimizu Kan. Sensei questions him about his actions, and Shimizu explains that he captured a monster in the mountains and made a contract with a demon who promised to hail him as a hero if he killed Sensei. However, Nguma thwarted his plans. In the midst of the conversation, Shimizu attempts to kill Sensei by grabbing her and threatens Nagumo to hand over all his weapons, or he will kill Sensei with a poison needle. Just as the situation intensifies, a dragon attacks them from behind. She gets injured while defending them, and Sensei is struck by the poison needle. Maguma quickly assists Sensei by using holy water and kissing her while her injuries are healed. Shimizu, heavily injured and starving, is left to die. Sensei asks Nagumo to help him, but Nagumo refuses to recognize him as an enemy and ultimately kills him with Wuda in tow. They continue on their journey, leaving behind the aftermath of the battle. Later, Nagumo and his teammates safely escort Waseta back home to the town's leader. They request another status plate and Tio Claris joins them, receiving a gold top rank status plate. As Tio lies down in bed, she begins to have flashbacks of her training to fight against the gods, with her dying father telling her that someone will eventually defeat God. Tio shares this information with her elders and the people, spreading hope for better times to come. The following morning, Yui and Tio go shopping, while Nagumo and she explore various places in town. She perceives it as a date, and they visit an aquarium where Nagumo encounters a talking fish. Sensing that it's a monster, Nagumo inquires how it ended up there. The fish explains that a group of people brought him there through an underground current while he was on the surface. The talking fish expresses gratitude to Nagumo and she for releasing him, and warns she to be cautious of a large gang of slavers in the city. While wandering around the city, Nagumo senses something beneath the surface and identifies it as a weak and young child. Meanwhile, Yui and Tio discuss she's carrying nature Nagumo, and she discover a little girl in a tunnel and bring her to a nearby house where they bathe and care for her. Nagumo asks the girl named Muchan about herself. She explains that she was separated from her mother, lost, and then captured by a gang of slavers to be sold at a black market auction. Nagumo decides to hand Muchan over to the city guards to help her return home. Although she opposes leaving, he insists on giving her to the guards. As they make their way back, Muchan cries profusely. Suddenly, Nagumo and she hear an explosion and rush back to the building where they left Muchan with the guards. They discover that the slavers have taken her back, injuring the guards. The gang challenges Nagumo, stating that if he wants Muchan alive, he must return with the bunny girl and hand her over, considering them as enemies. Nagumo decides to eliminate the entire gang, while Yui and Tio enjoy their time together. Unaware of the situation, Mumo informs them about what transpired during their date, and shares his plan to torture the gang members to locate Muchan. They split into two groups to search for the gang's hideouts throughout the town. Nagumo continues his search for Muin, going from one hideout to another, freeing many child slaves along the way. The boss of the slavers gang takes Muchan and puts her in a water cage on stage for auction. Suddenly, Nagumo arrives, shooting and killing the boss with multiple shots. He rescues Muchan and takes her on a flying ride to witness the fireworks around the city, while Yui uses his powerful abilities to destroy every hideout with a single thunder attack. Nagumo successfully reunites with Muchan and introduces Yui as his lover and Tio as a pervert. Chan expresses her gratitude to Nagumo, calling him Big Brother, but Nagumo insists she simply calls him by his name. However, she refuses and lovingly refers to him as Papa.